Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
Hey, is the power off on this?
I don't know. Just take it off.
Safety violation, unsafe work conditions.
In the construction trades unions, safety is our highest priority, and we train you to recognize and speak out on unsafe working conditions so that everyone arrives and goes home safely. Learn about careers in construction at georgiaconstructioncareers.com.
All right, good afternoon and welcome to the 285th episode of the Alfa Insurance Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. Today we're going to be joined by Harrison head coach Josh Cassidy. They're going to be hosting North Paulding. We'll have that game on the Peachtree Sports Network. It will kick off at 8 o'clock, a really big region showdown in Class 7A. After we talk to Coach Cassidy, I'm going to highlight the Spalding Jaguars in 4A as my team of the week, sponsored by georgiaconstructioncareers.com. And then after that, we're going to go over all the Week 9 action. But without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on Coach Cassidy. Welcome, Coach. Thanks so much for joining us.
Morning, Craig. Thanks so much for having me on and for highlighting Harrison High School football.
Absolutely. I cannot wait to catch the action tonight. I want to ask you, though, you guys had a tough region opener against McEachern, came down to the wire. What's been the message this week, and just what have you taken away from that game?
Yeah, so this week we just wanted to get back to the main thing of practice. Our guys, and first I have to up front say that this is taking nothing away from McEachern, because it's easy to sit back and make excuses as to why you weren't successful in something that you did your very best at. But when we spoke with our guys, we felt like we just didn't get whipped. We felt like we made mental mistakes and we had missed assignments. And so when I asked our guys to help me understand why that was so we could prevent it from happening again, they admittedly said that, coming into that fall break and having those days off, and they just weren't focused. And it was evident. We knew as a staff that our practices weren't where they needed to be. So our kids, we had a heart-to-heart on Friday night after the game about that. And again, this takes nothing away from McEachern, and it's not an excuse. They beat us. But our kids admitted to that, and they have stepped up to the challenge this week. And, championship teams are held accountable by players. Good teams are held accountable by coaches. And bad teams, no one's held accountable. And so we're excited to see this week of practice and what it develops into tonight.
Yeah, that is interesting. Fall break isn't something that they had around back when I was playing. So, I mean, that's different than a bye week. How does that impact just the schedule and just the day-to-day?
Well, I mean, as any coach would tell you, you've got, 130 players and their parents, and you've got administration, people that are connected to how you organize your schedule. So you have to balance that, because you want to be able to provide some time off for your coaches and for your players, but you also want to try to keep things as consistent as you can going into the season. So, in the end, it's on us as coaches to make sure that we have a certain expectation for the level of focus that we have on our practices, and we didn't do a good job of that last week. So it's just another thing to balance, but it's a good thing. I welcome fall breaks. I think everybody needs a break. If you don't, you'll burn out. So just trying to balance all of that.
Yep, and that was a road game. You guys are going to be back at home, North Paulding. You guys have had success, but, I mean, they've also had a great season so far. So what's it going to take just defensively? McEachern, looks like they were a great rushing attack, but we know what North Paulding can do with their passing game.
Yeah, so actually they're one of the most balanced teams we've played. North Paulding is. They're just that, as far as the film that we put in. They're almost 50-50 run pass. So they're very balanced in what they do. Up front, I think the improvement for those guys has been their offensive line. They've showed some serious improvement from years past, and that's shown in their rushing attack. But they have a young quarterback who can he can throw the ball. And then they've got some receivers, number 5 and number 7. And, of course, Boone's brother, Ajax Anderson, number 0, who, if they get those guys the ball, they have an opportunity to make plays after they catch it.
Yep, and I got to watch Tyler, their sophomore quarterback, a little bit a couple weeks ago against Walton. You're absolutely right. He's got a cannon of an arm. He's not afraid to throw it deep. But in terms of North Paulding's defense, I think that's also kind of an underrated aspect. That's where they return the bulk of their experience this year. They had some great stops in recent games. So what have you just seen from their defense? How can your offense come out and just establish that rhythm early?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, they are senior heavy. They only have 2 guys on the defensive side of the ball who aren't seniors, and those 9 seniors starting on defense, they played last year too. But we have to just think about players and not plays, and we have to think about our guys and putting our guys in the very best position to be successful against what they do on defense. And so I feel like we've done a good job preparing this week to do just that, and looking forward to seeing our guys on the offensive side of the ball execute that against a very tough North Paulding defense tonight.
Mm-hmm. And when I think of Harrison, I mean, one of the positions that you guys have just been outstanding at year after year is the quarterback position. You got Braylon Ford, senior. He's been in some big games. He's been outstanding. So what do you just expect from him tonight, and just what have you seen so far this year?
Yeah, so first, and Braylon would tell you this too, you have to credit those guys up front. And of course, we're going to highlight and we're going to mention Braylon Ford. But I think without mentioning the offensive line, who has just really stepped up this year in pass protection, it wouldn't be fair. But, we've got a group of 5 up front, and our first 3 seniors, guard is Burklow, center is Davis, and then at the right tackle is Weimer. And then we got 2 underclassmen, left tackle Carson Canup, right guard is Terrence McCray, and a senior at tight end Jason Monica. So those guys, when it comes to the pass game, provide him the time to deliver the ball. And then when you look at who he's delivering it to, Brady Cluse is he's everything you want in a person, not just in a football player. But you got distributing the ball too, and then you've got Amari Watson and Xavier Hill, who are playing slot, and also a guy who's playing both sides of the ball, Quentin Charles, catching some footballs as well. But to Braylon, again, you have to recognize and highlight those guys if you're going to talk about Braylon. But yeah, I mean, he's over 1,000 yards passing. He's got 11 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions, and he's just making really good decisions. And the thing about Braylon is he's a very smart kid. He's a 2-year starter for us, and this is what he does. This is what he was built to do. This is what he was created to do, and I'm excited to see him go out there and get a region win tonight.
You mentioned Brady Cluse, your receiver. I mean, what a exceptional athlete, 6'3". He's got size. He's been doing it year after year. What is it about him, though, that you just expect his role just the remainder of the season to just come up with those big plays, just challenge the defense?
So my daddy used to say when I was younger, that boy comes from good stock. So, I would say that it's a credit to his mom and dad, not just genetically, his height, size, and speed, but how he approaches life in general. I don't have any girls. I've got 3 boys. But if I had a girl, Brady Cluse is the type of person I would want her to be hanging out with. He just possesses everything that you want as far as a person. But, on the field, you mentioned it, his 10th grade year, he's a 3-year starter for us as well. His 10th grade year, he pops up on the scene and really takes notice. And then his junior year, first team region, honorable mention for all, second leading receiver in Class 7A, the largest classification in Georgia last year. And, of course, this year he's getting doubled and triple covered. And that's what's opening up the game for a couple other guys that I mentioned, Amari Watson, Xavier Hill, and Quentin Charles.
Yeah, and it looks like Xavier Hill, he's a key piece to the offense. He's able to do a lot of different things for you guys, line up in the slot, take carries. What have you just seen from him stepping up his junior year?
Yeah, Xavier's been amazing. We knew that all along. He's actually a quarterback. I mean, he could be our starting quarterback, but Braylon he's Braylon. We've already spoken about him. But, yeah, I mean, he's got just under 500 yards rushing this year. But the great thing for us is he's averaging over 7 yards per carry. And then in the passing game, as you mentioned, because we'll get the ball to him any way we can, he's averaging over 11 yards a catch. And he's the second leading receiver on our team. He's the third leading receiver on our team at 12 yards. 12 receptions. I apologize. But, yeah, Xavier's been phenomenal. And then last Friday he had an 80-yard touchdown against the McEachern team, who is always going to have kids who can pick them up and put them down. They're very fast. So he's had a great junior campaign, and we're excited to see how he finishes the remainder of it.
Yeah, Brady's had long touchdowns. Xavier is providing explosive plays. What have you seen just offensively, just your ability to kind of play the clock well, have long sustained drives when you need to, and just execute, whether it's the 2-minute drills or just being able to do what you guys do?
Yeah, I think that's a credit to the people who run that. Our offensive coordinator, Coach Bobby Thompson, and then our running back coach, who is our former head coach, state championship head coach, Coach Matt Dickman. He came out of retirement for me, and he's coaching our running backs. And then Coach Meese at the receivers and Coach Cohn at the offensive line. I think it's a credit to them first for the time that they put in to try to execute a plan, not based on, well, hey, this is what I know and this is what we've always done, but, hey, what can player X, Y, Z and do? And then, of course, your players to execute it, to trust you and your play calling and what you decide to do. So I would say, to answer that question, our coaches and our players and their commitment to one another and commitment to the process of what we're trying to do here at Harrison High School.
Yeah, and it's crazy. You guys have won 4 straight against North Paulding. Good as their teams have been, you guys have been able to come out with victories. Just how huge is this game tonight? What do you expect from the atmosphere? And obviously it's their region opener. Just how big do you think this matchup is for both teams?
Yeah, for us, I think it's the biggest game we've played, quite honestly, since, the last one, last Friday. For us, we don't want to put any more emphasis on next week, last week, this week. It's, we have a mentality around here. We just want to win this rep. So I think it's, just speaking from us, I can't, speak for them, but for us, we're excited. This is the biggest game of the year, and we're going to fully embrace the opportunity that it presents.
And then defense, you guys have really stood out this season. I mentioned last week, or when you guys played against McEachern, they were able to find some success on the run. But what have you seen overall defensively, and just what do you expect for them tonight, just coming out and keeping those points off the board?
Yeah, again, anytime you talk about the defense and the success they've had, you have to talk about the people that run it. And our defensive coordinator, Coach Fran Mahan, and then our outside linebackers coach, a former player of ours, Coach Turner, and then another former player of ours who coaches our D-line, Coach Langford, and then in the secondary, Coach Hill, who actually is the father of Xavier, coaches our corners, and then Coach Williamson, our safeties. And so those guys and the time that they put in to try to prepare a plan that best suits our players, and then, of course, the players executing it. And that always starts up front. And there's, I'm going to list the guys that, Colin Bellamy at D end, and Jaden Nagy at D end, and Sam Steinhauser, and Christian Smith, who's a newcomer, who's garnering a lot of attention as a result of his play. And then we've got some 3-year starters at the linebacker core, number 32, Colin O'Hara, number 44, Liam Gray, and then Ethan Harris, who's a 2-year starter as a junior for us. And then the other guy inside, we were not seeing what we needed out of our inside linebackers at the beginning of the year, so we made a switch. Ethan Sweat was full-time tight end last year, and we moved him from tight end to inside linebacker, and he actually leads our team in tackling. And then on the back end, we've got some seniors. I already mentioned Quentin Charles, who's on the offensive side of the ball as well, but that's where he's primary starting for us. And then Makai Andretti, who's having a great senior campaign as well. And we've got 2 underclassmen at safeties. Joel Combe, who's a 10th grader, and then Jackson Connors, who's a junior. So, to answer that question, you say the success they're having and how they're able to do what they do, it goes back to all of those people and all of the attention to detail that they have and their commitment to one another, to trust themselves and their coaches to do what's asked of them.
Yeah, it looks like Ethan is over 11 tackles a game. That's not an easy task going from tight end to interior or linebacker. So what have you seen just throughout each week, just him settling into that role, his leadership, and what we can expect tonight?
Yeah, Ethan's a guy, and here's the thing, like I said, he started at tight end last year, but I had him on kickoff, and he was always making these open field tackles. But we had inside last year, we had a kid, Holden Trice, who's now down at Georgia Southern as a walk-on, and who actually got some playing time last week. So shout out to Holden. We didn't need to move him in there, but we saw going into this year that there could potentially be a void. We was thinking about taking a guy from the outside and bringing him inside. And so I said, hey, our staff decided, hey, let's try Ethan. And he has really just continued to grow and develop. And I think he has flourished at that position, and he's really enjoying it. And we're enjoying having him there.
Yep, and then Liam Gray, he's been able to get to the quarterback, produce a lot of sacks as a team. How important is that going to be? We talked about North Paulding's quarterback, how he can air it out just to kind of bring the heat tonight.
Well, and that's a fine balance, right? Because, when you got a team that's 50-50 run pass, it's one thing to bring the heat. It's another thing to get yourself too far upfield. So we just got to stay true to our technique and make sure we stay on the heel line of the offensive lineman. But Liam's that kid who the way he plays on Friday night is the way he practices. Not just when it's first-team defense out there. He's in on scout team, and he's 100 miles an hour. And he's going to make a college program very successful just because of his love for the game. He's definitely a throwback.
And then how have you guys fared this season in the turnover margin, just producing them defensively?
Yeah, so that's something when we chart every week. And, we've been balanced in that. If you're asking about, hey, where are we as turnovers created and turnovers recovered, we're balanced in that area. Obviously, we want to get to the plus side of that, and that's something that we're working on the offensive side of the ball, protecting it, and on the defensive side of the ball, getting it back. But we're balanced right now. We're right balanced as we've had as many turnovers as we've created.
And then what can we expect with special teams tonight? Don't have the special teams depth charts, but just who's going to be back there to return for you guys, just how you guys have been just with the field goal unit and special teams this season.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about special teams, you talk about our field goal PAT guys. Rudolph Gleason, he's a senior. He's been very consistent for us, made all of his PATs, and been very successful in the field goals as well. And then Simon Zidane, he is our kickoff guy, and you'll see tonight. There was one against Pebblebrook where he hit the middle of the upright. So he's got. I mean, he is going to be a Division I kicker, but he also has had 2 49-yard field goals, and on the punting side of things, he's been phenomenal. He's been upwards range of 38, 39-yard average this season on his punts, but on their end of it, they're very sound in the kicking game, as they are in all 3 phases of the game. They do some things with their kickoff and kickoff return where they are going to position their players to be in the very best spots they can be to be successful. And the same thing with their punt and their punt return. They do a phenomenal job. And it's a third of the game, and I do believe that we're going to see it impact the game tonight.
Absolutely, and yeah, it looks like how do you say it? Zidane?
Zidane, yeah, Zeidan. Okay, Zidane is how you probably pronounce it, Zidane, but I've called him Zidane since the very beginning. And it was funny because one of our teachers runs a podcast, Hoya Nation, and they broadcast all of our games. And I heard him say Zidane, so I went to Simon. I'm like, hey, how do you pronounce your last name? He's like, well, Zidane, he said, but just keep calling me Zidane. So, it doesn't matter to him, but I like to call kids properly, and so, but yeah, Zidane is how you pronounce his name.
Yeah, so he's only a junior, and 28 touchbacks on 35 kickoffs. So he's certainly got a leg. We'll be watching for that. I guess last question. You faced this region last year. It was really competitive top to bottom. Teams like McEachern didn't even make the playoffs out of it. There was a lot of parity. What's your just overall take this year on 7A, just what this Region 3 is looking like?
Yeah, it's too early to know how it's going to end, but it's going to be competitive because you think the teams that are in it, with the exception of North Paulding, we can throw a rock to McEachern, Marietta, and we're close in proximity with Hillgrove as well. So I would say within 5 to 7 miles, those schools are all within range. So, these kids grew up playing junior program ball against one another. And then there's that, of course, social media aspect where they get on there and, talk all that trash. But I would say that our region is going to come down to the last week. Obviously, right now, McEachern and Marietta are out front of that because they're both undefeated in the region. And I know they have a matchup tonight. So that game tonight will be a big sign for what unfolds with our region.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for the time, Coach Cassidy. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys tonight. Should be an outstanding game.
Yeah, and again, thank you guys so much for what you do. I know it takes time for you guys to promote high school football in the state of Georgia, and you guys are doing a great job. I know you televising these games is something that's new for you guys, and I had a chance to watch last week or the week before last. It was, Lee County and the Houston County game, and it was nice. It was professionally done. Commentating was great. It was just top shelf, professionally done. So thank you guys for highlighting high school football in the state of Georgia and all you do.
Yeah, the drive was well worth it. That was an incredible game. But thank you so much,
Yeah.
Coach. We'll see you tonight.
All right, go Hoyas.
Go Hoyas. All right, so there goes Coach Cassidy. As he mentioned, McEachern and Marietta, they're at 1-0 in the region, but they play tonight. So one of those teams is going to get the win, go to 2-0. The other one will be at 1-1. North Paulding's opening its region schedule tonight against Harrison. Harrison's 0-1, and then Hillgrove's off on the bye, also 0-1. So a lot going down in Region 3 tonight. But let's go ahead. We'll take a quick break and thank our sponsors and be back on the other side.
Hey, is the power off on this?
I don't know. Just take it off.
Safety violation, unsafe work conditions.
In the construction trades unions, safety is our highest priority, and we train you to recognize and speak out on unsafe working conditions so that everyone arrives and goes home safely. Learn about careers in construction at georgiaconstructioncareers.com.
Hey, does it matter if this leaks?
It don't matter to me, can't see it from my house.
Illegal use of hands and proper training.
GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com has 14 different highly skilled trades with tuition-free training in our certified apprenticeship programs to train you the right way. Find your career at GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com.
All right, welcome back. So now we're going to dive into my featured team of the week, and it is Spalding in Class 4A. They're undefeated, and I talk a lot about 4A. I had Stockbridge on earlier this week. I gave them a lot of credit for what they've done with their 5-game win streak. Their only losses coming to Douglas County and Colquitt. But there's another team that I think deserves some attention, and that is Spalding. They are 7-0, and looking at their schedule, which we're going to do, they have had some really strong wins. So it's pretty amazing how solid Spalding's been the last few seasons. In 2019, they finished 1-9. In 2020, that was Coach Kearney's first year. They were also 1-9, and then 2021, that's when the turnaround came. They were 8-3. in that season, they ended up falling to Baldwin in region play. That gave them the number 3 seed. Yeah, and then because there was a 2-way tie. And then they beat Troop on the road in the first round of the playoffs and then ended up falling to North Oconee. So an overall outstanding season. Last year, they dropped some of these same non-region opponents. They fell to Mary Persons, to Dutchtown, 2 great teams. They got revenge on the Baldwin game. They fell by 1 point to Howard, and then they had a potential region title game against Perry in the final week of the season and fell 40-7. Then they went into the playoffs, beat Westover, and then fell to eventual state champion Benedictine. All right, well, let's look at this year. They're 7-0. They have outscored their opponents by nearly 40 points a game. They beat Mary Persons week 2. Mary Persons, of course, the team that just beat Prince Avenue Christian, snapped their 20-game win streak. That's their only loss this season. They beat Dutchtown on the road 41-27. That's an impressive victory. That put them in the top 10. And then, man, have they looked solid in this region. We mentioned last year they lost by 1 to Howard. They got the win this year 42-34. That was a huge win for them. They avenged that one. They beat Baldwin 34-0, Griffin 41-0. So now they are getting set to play West Lawrence tonight. West Lawrence is 2-4, 0-2 in the region. They've had some trouble so far. This is a 7-team region, so they still have a chance to keep their playoff hopes alive, but nonetheless, a big opportunity for Spalding. Then they'll play Westside Macon, and basically if they win tonight, that's going to set up home field in the playoffs because they're 3-0, Perry's 3-0, and they have a 2-game advantage on everyone else at this point. And then they have the big showdown with Perry in the season finale. So let's look at their head-to-head against Perry because they have had some upsets, I believe, in the past. That's right. So in 2021, Spalding was unranked. Perry came into that matchup ranked number 3 in the classification. Spalding had a shocking 31-26 win. I remember when it happened. Definitely kind of shook things up, and I know that was a huge confidence boost because Perry looked like they were one of the best teams in the state at that point. We've seen them go toe-to-toe with Houston County the last few seasons. But then last year, Perry cruised past them 40-7. So the big game and big test, because when you look at the games I just mentioned, the win over Mary Persons, the win at Dutchtown, shutouts over Baldwin, who's been fantastic this year. They were ranked number 10 when they got that win. Spalding's a real deal right now. It's just going to be that game against Perry. And I hate to say it because their resume right now is incredible, but there's that matchup looming. You look at how good Perry is. Can they beat the Panthers? That's going to be an incredible matchup on October 27th. And where is that game? Let's see. It's going to be neutral. I think it's at... Not sure the name of that stadium at this point, but let's look at some of their stats real quick. Actually, I'll get into their latest game because it was a 42-34 win over Howard. We mentioned Howard got the 1-point win last year. There's a really tough Howard team. Spalding actually went up 28-7 at the half. And then Howard ended up outscoring them 27-14 to close the gap in the second. So they were out in front the entire game. Kirk Clark, senior quarterback, multi-year starter. He had 137 yards, 1 touchdown. And then also rushed for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. You had Henderson, their junior running back, 150 yards off 22 carries, 2 touchdowns, 255 total. Cedric Evans, their top receiver, he's a senior. He's back. So overall, tons of experience returning, and that's a big factor into why I'm talking about them right now because these are familiar names. We've seen them getting it done, and this is why Spalding's gone from a 1-9 team to a team that's shutting out top 10 opponents and making a case for a region title and a deep playoff run. So on the season, Kurt Clark is 63% completions at this point, 142 yards per game, 12 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions. I mentioned his running ability. He's got 680 yards on the ground and 7 touchdowns. He's their leading rusher. And then in the receiving game, you got Cedric Evans, the senior's top target, 498 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 71 yards per game. Defensively, they had shutouts over Baldwin and Griffin. Looks like they don't have all the stats uploaded defensively, but let's just look at the improvement. So last year they ended up allowing 22 points per game. This year, 13. And so in the list that comes out where it's who are the most improved teams in the state, Spalding had a great season last year, and they are still one of the most improved because they have been very talented. So that will be a game to watch tonight. Let's see if they can be one of the few teams to improve to 8-0. I know that would be very exciting for them, and just credit to Spalding what they've been able to do the last few seasons. All right. Let's look at my top 30 games real quick. All right. And these are going to be the games that will run below the game tonight during the broadcast. We'll have live updates, and then we'll break these down. We'll also have halftime shows going over some of the statewide results, and then, of course, our post game. So if you tune in, stay after the game. We'll be having that extended coverage. And one game that's not on here that I do want to talk about just because it was brought to my attention yesterday, you can go to Score Atlanta's YouTube page. Najee had North Cobb Christian head coach Matt Jones on the show. They're getting ready to play South Atlanta tonight. South Atlanta is the reigning region champ. That was the only team that beat them last year, and so they're trying to win their first ever region title. A win for North Cobb Christian tonight. They got an exciting freshman quarterback, some big-time playmakers that would set them up for a historic run, and I think that's a game to watch in 2A. So that's not on the top 30, but definitely tune into that, and if something exciting happens in that game, we'll probably give you updates during the broadcast. But I got Archer at Parkview. I'm interested in that matchup. Parkview, I think they should handle business in that. They still have a matchup with Grayson and I believe Newton. So this is a game they will certainly want to come out with a victory. All right, Baldwin at Perry. I picked this game because of the common opponent factor. Spalding had a 34-0 win over Baldwin. Baldwin's beaten Peach County this season. They've been in the top 10. Well, now let's see how Perry stacks up against Baldwin. If they have a similar result that Spalding had, then I'm going to really know kind of how big that Perry-Spalding matchup's going to be. If Baldwin can go to Perry and get a win, that's going to definitely shift my expectations as well. Perry has been on a roll. All right, Buford at Mill Creek. That is going to be an incredible matchup. The one area that I am highlighting, which sounds silly when you have a game with this many talented prospects, is special teams. I think Mill Creek has a distinct advantage. They have an incredible field goal kicker. Buford, we've seen them in person. They struggled to kick field goals. They struggled in some of the red zone. Dylan Rayola, I think he's yet to throw an interception. That's another factor. Can Mill Creek's secondary get a turnover? And then obviously the line of scrimmage is going to be huge in this game. That's honestly how Mill Creek was able to pull away in that Parkview game. That was a pretty even matchup, but then once they had an opportunity, They were able to milk the clock with Cam Robinson and get the victory. I mentioned on Tuesday, the last 2 years in the Corky Kell, Mill Creek has kicked a 57-yard field goal. That's something where if it's a low-scoring game and Mill Creek tries to play the clock and just take advantage of the game that way, I think they're going to be able to get some points, maybe some 2-for-1 possessions at the end of the half where, let's say they score, they get a stop on Buford, they got a minute left. Well, they have a weapon by being able to get into field goal territory and get points on the board. That's why I think they're very dangerous, and it's going to be at Mill Creek. Certainly a game I'm going to be watching very closely. All right, Cambridge at Kell. Huge matchup. Kell has not lost since its opener. Cambridge recently got beat by GAC 30-3, so let's see how Kell stacks up against Cambridge, because we got a big showdown next week, GAC at Kell. That would be for the region title, and I'm very interested in this one. Kell got beat by Cambridge last year. It was a televised game. They have a lot to prove. You got Bryce Clavin back. You got Kamari Nix filling in his role. Coach May said he likes having them both on the field. That makes them very dangerous. I just think Kell has the advantage in athleticism. I think every play they're going to go out there, play fast, play with power, and I think they should handle business. But definitely we'll be watching that game, and we'll see if Kell can set themselves up for an incredible showdown next week. All right, Cherokee at Osborne. Osborne picked up its first region win since 2011 last week against Kennesaw Mountain. If they want to make the playoffs this year, that's a very tough region. You got Walton, you got Wheeler, you got North Cobb. They need this win. It's at home. Let's see how good they are. They beat Kennesaw Mountain, I believe, without completing a pass. They have former Hillgrove head coach Philip Ironside. He's on that staff. This is a big opportunity for them. 2 straight region victories for Osborne would be incredible. And then Cherokee, they're solid. They had a rough year last year, but they're definitely more experienced. And same thing with Osborne. This is for their playoff hopes. All right, Carver Atlanta at Sandy Creek should be an incredible region opener for both those teams. We know how battle-tested all these teams are in that region. You got Carver playing teams like Calhoun earlier. Sandy Creek's been through the gauntlet, playing East Coweta, Collins Hill, maybe even Mill Creek in there. They've just played so many tough teams. I don't even know if they've played another 3A school at this point. So this is a huge matchup. Let's see who's going to come out in that region, because you got a Cedar Grove team that's going to be playing Douglas. They're 2-5. They've looked good. They've played a tough schedule, but tonight's really going to show us who is a big contender coming out of that region. All right, Cass at Dalton. That's a huge region matchup as well. Dalton's coming off a tough loss to Hiram. Cass is coming off its overtime loss to Cartersville, and so this is a pretty much must-win game for both these teams. Let's see how Cass does. If Devin Henderson's going to be out, who's going to step up? I think it's going to be high scoring. Dalton can put points on the board. And then defensively, they've been allowing a ton of points too. So let's see if that Cass offense can get going and pull out a big road win. All right, Coffee at Statesboro. It's a big Region 1 matchup in 5A. Coffee's undefeated. I think they've actually gone to number 1 in quite a few polls recently. I still have Creekside up there, but I think the majority have put Coffee there. So let's see if they can handle business and remain undefeated. All right, Colquitt County at Camden County in Region 1 in 7A. A big time matchup. Camden County beat Richmond Hill in a close game last week. We saw Valdosta beat Lowndes, and so this is an opportunity for Colquitt to just march closer to that region title. Camden only has one loss this season. Let's see if anyone's going to be able to challenge the Packers in Region 1. All right, Dutchtown at Jones County. Big-time matchup in Class 5A. Jones County is coming off a big win over Ola. And then Dutchtown has been through the gauntlet as well, and this is a big region matchup. We'll see what happens with Jones County. Had some rough outings, but in recent weeks they've looked really solid. I think last week's win over Ola was probably the best they've looked all season. All right, Elbert County at Rabun County. Big-time Class 2A matchup. I think they both only have one loss. Rabun lost to Stevens County. I forgot who Elbert lost to. That's head coach Shannon Jarvis, the former Mill Creek coach at Elbert County. That will be a great environment and a really big Class 2A matchup. I think the winner will certainly move up in the polls. All right, Fellowship Christian at Athens Academy, another Class 2A matchup, region battle, top 10 matchup. Let's see. Athens Academy, they really broke to the scene with their blowout win over Mount Perrin, and then Fellowship, I feel like they've just really challenged themselves in non-region. They've played teams like Trinity Christian, and should be a big game. All right, Flowery Branch at Jefferson. Flowery Branch is coming off its best win of the season. I think it was a 38-0 win over Winder Barrow. Jefferson has looked unstoppable. Let's see what happens in this one. I think Jefferson is number 3 in the current 5A poll. Flowery Branch has picked up some key region wins, and this is obviously a big rivalry game for them as well. All right, Gainesville at Habersham Central. Gainesville is coming off its bye. They're the number 1 ranked team in Class 6A. Up until that bye, I felt like they had gotten better every single week, just looked really outstanding on every phase. Let's see if they can go out and handle business tonight. We'll be checking that score and see how they look. Habersham does look like they're going to be a playoff team in that region, and this is going to be a big test for them. All right, GAC at North Springs. The undefeated Spartans look to remain unbeaten ahead of their big-time showdown with Kell next week. All right, Hiram at Cartersville. Another great matchup. Cartersville eked out 2 close region wins over Calhoun and Cass. This one is pretty much going to, if they can win this one, looks like they're going to be in prime position to get that region title. That region's a total mess, though, so if Hiram can somehow go in there and get the win, it's going to change everything. So big-time playoff implications right there. All right, Kennesaw Mountain at Walton. Let's check that one out. Kennesaw Mountain, they are not having very positive season right now. I think they only have 1 win. The loss to Osborne last week was obviously tough. Walton, on the other hand, they had to roar back from a 21-0 deficit against North Cobb last week. They were in a tight matchup with North Paulding. Walton's trying to win the region title, and let's just see how they come out and look. I think it's senior night. Should be a great environment at Raider Valley. All right, Newton at Brookwood. All of Gwinnett County was off last week. We know Newton has been absolutely rolling. This is going to be very tough for Brookwood. Let's just see how Newton looks compared to Brookwood. I think they should be able to go in there and have a lot of success, but let's just see how crisp they are after the bye week. All right, McEachern at Marietta. Huge game that everyone invested in our Region 3 matchup. We'll be interested in that result for the playoff picture. You got North Cobb at Wheeler. 2 teams that are exceptional at running the ball. Let's see how good Wheeler is going to be. I think their only loss was to North Atlanta. North Oconee at East Forsyth. If North Oconee wins that one, they are going to, I think, be 1 game away from clinching the Region 8 title. East Forsyth coming off its first loss of the season to Cherokee Bluff. You got Peach County at Mary Persons. Big-time Class 3A matchup. Mary Persons Their only loss is to Spalding. We mentioned they beat Prince Ave, and then Peach County has had a lot of losses to start the season, but then they have looked much better in recent weeks, and this is a chance to turn around their season and beat a top 10 opponent and be right back in the conversation. All right, Peachtree Ridge at North Gwinnett, an unbelievable matchup. Undefeated Peachtree Ridge are coming off back-to-back bye weeks. This is a very crowded region. You still got Norcross in there. You got Ryan Hall for North Gwinnett having probably the best stretch he's had, passing the ball, 4 touchdowns last week against Meadow Creek. You got Darnell Kelly on Peachtree Ridge just lighting it up. He was leading Class 7A before they had the bye. So I think a lot of fireworks in that matchup, and really Peachtree Ridge's secondary has been a strength of their team so far. They're so talented, going to be talented for years to come. Can they shut down that North Gwinnett passing game? I think defense and turnovers could give Peachtree Ridge the edge in that one. All right, Sequoia at Creekview. Both those teams are in Rome's region. Sequoia got beat by Rome last week. I think Creekview still has to play them. If Creekview can get the win over Sequoia, I think that will guarantee them home field in the playoffs. All right, South Gwinnett at Grayson. We'll definitely check in on that matchup. I think South Gwinnett only has 1 loss this season. They're trying to make the playoffs. You got Grayson, Newton, Parkview, Brookwood, Archer, South Gwinnett, all in that region, and this is just a big test for them. All right, Pebblebrook at Carrollton. Carrollton looked very explosive last week against East Coweta, putting up 56 points. I think it's this part of the season where they really only have that Westlake matchup coming up. That's like a big challenge in the region, so let's just see how they come out and look against Pebblebrook at home. Should be able to handle business. All right, Valdosta at Richmond Hill. Big playoff implications in Region 1 for that. Richmond Hill fell by 3 points to Camden last week. Valdosta got the win over Lowndes. You got Wayne County at New Hampstead in Region 3 4A. Burke County is also in that region, and so these teams will both need a win to try to get either a 2 seed or secure at least a 3 seed. That region has gotten a lot deeper. And then West Forsyth at Lambert. Huge rivalry game in every single sport. Lacrosse last year, just insane rivalry. You got undefeated Lambert and West Forsyth. Bitter rivalry game. Definitely want to see who comes out in that one. But that's all I got for my top 30 games. We're going to have them all updated and, of course, more if any surprising results happen. Tune in. We'll be live from Harrison at 8 o'clock. Go to scoreatl.com. We got our scoreboard there, got our daily dives, our stories, and a lot coming up. So thank you so much for joining us, and good luck to all the teams tonight.
Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
Dang, where you get this car?
You need to join the union.
The union?
Absolutely. You can get 10 of these.
Union construction workers earn the highest wages with the best benefits and the most protection in the construction industry. Find your career in construction. Go to GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com and start your future today.